in a major shake-up, President Bola Tinubu has approved the reconstitution of the board of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, removing the chairman, Pius Akinyelure, and the group chief executive officer, Mele Kyari. All board members appointed in November 2023 have also been removed. The new 11-man board now has former managing director of Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, Bashir Bayo Julari, as the group CEO, and Ahmadu Musa Kida named as the non-executive chairman. President Tinubu also appointed Adedapo Shegun, who replaced Umaru Isa Ajia as the chief financial officer to the new NNPCL board. Now, 6 non-executive directors from Nigeria's geopolitical zones, as 6 geopolitical zones, have also been appointed. In a statement, the president said the overhaul is targeted at improving operational efficiency, investor confidence, and commercial viability.
Well, we're now joined by the National Publicity Secretary of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, otherwise known as PANDEF, Dr. Obiuwevbi Ominimini. Also with us is the Rise News Director of News and Politics Editor, Sambo. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for this one.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I think I'll begin with you, Mr. Ominimini, to just get your response to this reconstituted board by President Bola Tinubu. It's received a lot of praises across board. Some describe it as the best 11 that could have been chosen. What's your reaction?
Thank you very much for having me. At this moment, I want to state very categorically that the people of the South-South geopolitical zone, the region that produces oil and gas in the highest quantum in this country, has been thrown into sadness. In fact, we should have expected that Mr. President should have appointed the Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL from the region that bears the brunt of the oil production. So today, the entire South-South geopolitical zone has been taken back because we are treated like second-class citizens in a country where we contribute the resources that sustain Nigeria. You cannot recompose the NNPC board and give us a non-executive member. It is unfair. It is unjust. In fact, it negates the principle of equity. So we, PANDEF, are calling on President Tinubu to ensure that this composition he has done is dismantled and that the Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL is appointed from South-South geopolitical zone. We produce the oil, we bear the brunt of oil production. Today, it is only a country like Nigeria where you have gas flare penalty. And the gas flare penalty is not even used for the people of the region. So now that government is considering the increase in production of gas to raise it up to about 8 billion cubic feet and considering the production of crude oil to about 2 million barrels per day, it is necessary that the area that bears the brunt of the oil production should have the chief executive of NNPCL. Because when we are not there, those who are the helm of affairs, they don't consider the people of the region. Just imagine that with flare gas, this gas can be converted to domestic use. And our lifespan is shortened as a result of this gas flare. So we are not happy with the recomposition of this board where South-South geopolitical zone is giving a non-executive member. Even Mr. Austin Avuru, that is appointed as a non-executive member, is qualified to be the CEO. We have so many qualified people from Niger Delta that can be CEO of NNPCL.
All right, Somna, you want to respond to what he has to say there. He's saying, I mean, is it too much to ask that a South-South indigene should really be at the helm of affairs at the new, the NNPCL with this, composition? Now, is he asking too much, considering where you hear from some experts saying this is a technical board? Is that all that matters? that this is square pegs in square holes?
Well, to be fair to the APC-led federal government, led by President Bola Tinubu, this is actually one of the best appointments that you would see, you know, that the Tinubu administration, even the APC-led federal government has done in the past 10 years. I mean, that you would say that you're very much confident that it's based on the areas of expertise. This is a national oil company, and this is the major company that actually helps us to get most of the funds that we use to run the government and the people of Nigeria, to govern them effectively. And from what we have seen, actually, I'm not a politician like Chief Ominimini is, but I would like to let you know that his concerns are actually genuine. But there's what's called the greater interest of the nation. And when you take a critical look at these people who have been put forward, Bashir Ojulari is a very, very sound professional, someone who helped Renaissance to actually bid for Shell with about $2.4 billion buying Shell assets when Shell was exiting. I mean, how much more can you have such a professional running Nigeria's national oil company? And then, you know, with his experience in Shell, and then, of course, other parts of the private sector, is actually well suited. Then, of course, Amadou Musa Kida is also someone who has had a very good experience in Total. Well, you know, fit for this job. Yeah. And then, of course, let's take a look at the politics of it. Bashir Ojulari is from the North Central, that's Kwara State. And then, of course, Amadou Musa Kida is from Borno State, where the outgoing NNPC GMD, or GCEO, Group CEO as it's called now, hails from. That's Mele Kyari. And now, what's the politics of it? Yeah. We've always had lots of Northerners who have headed the NNPC, including Southerners too, who have headed. I mean, the last Southerner we had was Ibe Kachuku from Delta State, Niger Delta, irrespective of the fact that his name sounds more of an Easterner, between 2015 and 2016. And then after that, we had the like of Yakubu. And then, of course, we had Mekanti Baru, then before we eventually had the outgoing Mele Kyari. And in one way or the other, you will see that during the composition of the boards that actually followed, they've always tried to play some sort of politics. But this time around, these people that have been brought in place are very, very technical. Those who have worked with this category of people in the oil and gas industry say Nigeria couldn't have got the best, a better team than these people. So I understand the fears of the Niger Delta people, but take a look at Austin Avuru himself, who is representing the South. A very sound professional, very hands-on person. And like he said, he's very much qualified to be the group CEO himself. But the president, in his wisdom, and knowing that NNPCL is transiting to be a publicly owned company very soon. And if that happens, should we be thinking about efficiency or political expediency? I think it's time for us to start looking at how this country can move forward. The South-South will continue to be accommodated in different ways. And that's why you see that there was this pipeline protection contract that was signed with several groups, with that of Tantita and all of that. I think if the presidency had done that with another set of people in another part of the country, it would have caused a lot of anxiety. But here we are, in one way or the other, so many people didn't really like that deal, because it took off the hands of the Navy, the hands of the security forces. But despite that, the South-South had to be accommodated so that, you know, there could be political expediency to protect the assets, the oil and gas assets of the country. So I think Chief Ominimini and the Niger Delta should see it as a win-win, and then, of course, give the President Tinubu, his flowers where he deserves. And on this instance, President Tinubu actually deserves those flowers, because if they are given the right thing to be done, they will move things forward. And he sacked his own former boss, Pius Akinye-Lure, who was at ExxonMobil, and then brought someone who is a sound professional, young, active, because a lot of people had also complained that Pius Akinye-Lure was just too old to be in this transition. And then Mele Kyari came in, he did his best. But of course, as the 20th and the last GMD of the NNPCL, he had his own challenges as a person. But of course, he has revived the Warri, refinery, Port Harcourt, and then Kaduna is, coming in. Yeah. And then the oil is now at 1.8 million barrels per day. Well, something is going on, and let's see how we can sustain that success as a country. All
right, Chief Ominimini, I mean, this is where we are at now. We have a new board and a new group CEO. Can we begin to set the agenda for them? What are your expectations? What should they do differently from the previous board and the group CEO? Anything that you have seen that you think was a pitfall for the exiting board that the new board should avoid?
Thank you very much. One should understand very clearly, when you talk of Shell, a man who worked with Shell polluted our area. Most of the pollutions you have in Niger Delta today were carried out by Shell. Shell caused a lot of division, divide and rule in our area. And they left without prior notice of the people. We were not even given the right of first refusal, whether those property they left, we had capacity to acquire them, whether we were willing to acquire them or not. The right of first refusal was not given to us. You are talking of increase in oil production. The increase in oil production does not rest solely on the management expertise of those appointed to NNPCL. Instead, it rests squarely with the acceptability of the people of Niger Delta, the peaceful nature of Niger Delta. Niger Deltans are so peaceful. That is why you have uninterrupted flow of the oil and gas today from the region. If other regions had been in our advantage position, they would have left this country long ago. So the expertise that is needed, the required environment that is needed for increased oil production rests with the peaceful nature, the acceptability of the people of Niger Delta. Then secondly, when you talk of expertise to run the oil industries, we have this expertise back at home. We have our people who have been in the oil industry for many years. Then look at the marginalization against the people of Niger Delta. Look at upstream and downstream regulating authority. Our people are not there. Right. Look at the upstream, Petroleum Upstream Regulating Commission. Our people are not there. Look at the NGC, Nigeria Gas Company. Our people are not there. This is why we are saying that we are being treated like a second-class citizen in our own country. All right, let me quickly bring in... We are not talking of gold production. We don't have all night. We are talking of oil and gas.
Your point is very, very well taken. Sumner, I mean, you want to respond to that in terms of, what are the pitfalls that the outgone team, suffered that this team should not or should avoid? I mean, they have their job cut out.
Yeah, I mean...
Sumner?
All right. Well, the critical failures of the Mele Kyari, administration had to do with the issues of, the refineries initially. But of course, he picked up, and we could see that he also had some long-term vision. Like that very golden opportunity the NNPC had to actually buy some shares into Dangote refinery, to which they did. I mean, that's one of the greatest things that he did. But of course, initially when he came in 2019, and of course, this has made Mele Kyari the longest-serving NNPC, GMD, and then GCEO now. There was initially that issue of, constant failure of the NNPC to be able to meet its target. Because I had followed Ibe Kachiku, former Minister of, State for Petroleum, around 2015, 2016, around to some of these refineries that are now working. And then he kept on giving deadlines. Nigeria will stop importation of petrol by this time, way up until 2019. Of course, we couldn't meet some of those deadlines. But when he came in, it took him some time to be able to understand some of the things. But because he had also been in the system, he was able to, gain political support from then President Muhammadu Buhari. Yeah. And then, of course, when President Tinubu came in, we thought, Mele Kyari was going to be dropped. But I think it was a wise thing for President Tinubu himself to have seen that Mele Kyari actually understood some of those challenges. And one of the major targets for him was to ensure that we move the oil production back to 1.8 million barrels per day. And of course, the target was 2 million barrels per day. And of course, the federal government, through the president, gave him and the security services, a deadline to actually ensure that, production is restored and all of that. Well,
you're reading out some now. Before I let you go, I mean, you were reading out some of the legacies of the Mele Kyari time at the NNPCL. An oil and gas expert, Dan Kunle, actually says, look, there's a need to unbundle or yank off subsidiaries under the NNPCL, to stand on their own or subsequently privatize them. That's according to Dan Kunle.
Yes, I mean, it's very, very important. And like Ominimini was saying earlier on, these are also avenues for the government to see how they can strengthen, the clamor by the Niger Delta to also be put in some of the positions. Some of these NNPCL companies, should be an avenue to see how, we can inject a lot of productivity with some of the human resources that he has talked about from the Niger Delta. People who understand the oil and gas industry very well. Feed the right persons there and see how you can strengthen capacity, build capacity in that area. But one of the key failures of the Mele Kyari, regime is the failure for us to be able to take a decision as to whether we should sell these refineries or not. Right. Because some of these refineries are not actually fit for us to continue to maintain them. Age is there. Dangote has said that they will buy them. Otedola also, I mean, they purchased them, but Yaradua came and turned it down. But right now, you will see that they are struggling to actually meet up. So there should have been a very clear-cut policy as to whether it is not time for us to actually sell them, like Atiku Abubakar has suggested. And then, of course, some of the key things that the opposition had also said about some of this moribund state infrastructure. I mean, it's something that the president should actually take cognizance of. And then, of course, lastly, as the NNPC is transitioning to a new company, some of the provisions of the PIA Act need to be urgently implemented. Right. The issues of host communities with the Niger Delta people, I mean, we, have seen how the agitations had gone on for 5%, but of course, we're able to come down to 3%. Let these issues be seen in such a way that we can increase the percentage of the monies we're giving to the Niger Delta for all of these challenges that they face, and then things will be much more easier. Yeah. And then, of course, we'll attract more investment. Because if we don't do that, then, of course, the future of oil and gas sector in Nigeria will be a problem. But in summary, this is the best that we can get. Right. I understand even some parts of the North are angry that, the chairmanship, the group CEO position did not go to someone from the Northwest or maybe Northeast. But the understanding here is that someone like Ojulari, who's from the North Central, is someone from the North. Must it always be from the Northwest or Northeast? So the politics of this has been got very clearly by Mr. President, and all they need now is support to be able to, give us a better NNPCL.
Yeah. Indeed. There are also questions around transparency, integrity, investor confidence in the NNPC and all of that. But, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Mele Kyari, some people will say he came, he saw, did he conquer? The juries, yes.
Well, he said it was an Almajiri, and he actually got to be.
Thank you very much.
Did not conquer anything.
Okay, Chief Obiuwevbi.
Chief Ominimini,
let me say this, if you permit me to say this. Number
in 20 seconds.
Yes, in 20 seconds. The Ministry of Livestock, all the entire people are appointed from northern Nigeria. But once it concerns oil and gas, our people that are appointed as Minister of State. Okay, so the question we are asking today, who is the substantive Minister of Petroleum? Why is it that when it comes to Niger Delta, it is only Minister of State they
from
give
the
to
Niger
us?
Delta. I mean,
Minister of State, who is the Minister of Petroleum? Why giving us Minister of State? That is another injustice.
More than 2 hours to have this conversation, but I have to say thank you very much. Obiuwevbi Ominimini is the National Publicity Secretary of Pan-Niger, and of course our own Sambo joining us tonight on News Night.